Tiles last a lifetime, but sometimes if they're damaged or cracked, it means that they're no longer waterproof, and also they can harbour bacteria. So if you have a damaged or cracked tile in amongst a wall of good tiles, then really you just want to replace the damaged one. Now for this, we're going to need a few tools. Firstly, a hammer and chisel, or maybe chisels of different sizes. And then to remove the old adhesive, we're going to need a scraper, the size of which depends on what sort of size tile you're removing. We're also going to need a grout rake for removing the grout around it and isolating the tile. But most of all, more than any other tiling job, you're going to need safety glasses. If you're going to hammer and chisel a tile like this, then shards of tile are going to go in all directions. So definitely need to wear safety glasses and a pair of gloves. So before we start hammering this out and trying to get this tile out, the first thing we need to do is to try to isolate it from all of these so we don't damage them.
Just the vibration of using a hammer and chisel to break out a single tile has the potential to break those around it. So to reduce this risk, it's important to isolate it as much as possible from the others by removing the grout. Here I'm using a grout rake in the same way you would to re-grout your tiles. With the grout removed, start with a small hammer and chisel in the centre of the tile, nibbling away until you manage to get through and make a hole in the middle of the tile. And then still hammering towards the centre, widen the hole. As the hole gets bigger, there becomes a point that the remaining tile gets weaker and can be easily cracked and the rest removed, while still being careful not to touch the surrounding tiles. With the tile removed, we need to clean out the old adhesive to make room for the new. Here I'm using a small scraper which works well on the adhesive ridges, but then I turn to a more heavy duty scraper to take out the rest. This works better as I can apply more force with a longer handle, and the blade is both stronger and sharper. So I think that is clean enough. Not every little bit of the old adhesive is out, but I think enough to get a tile in there. I've also taken the grout from around the outside. The only way you really know is by putting a tile in the hole, and I can feel that it's actually sitting back all the way round it. Now if that's protruding or at the same level, it means you're not going to be able to get your adhesive in, so but that's sitting back maybe 2 or 3 millimeters. So that'd just be right. So now I'm going to stick this back in. Here I'm using a ready mixed adhesive just for this single tile. It's easier in this case to apply the adhesive to the tile rather than the wall, and the amount you're going to need can vary depending on how much you removed with the original tile. So with the adhesive applied, place the tile into the gap, push it in to collapse the ridges, and then check with a straight edge to see how it's sitting. This is really trial and error. You may need to pull it back out to either add or remove adhesive to get it to sit level with the others around it. Once it's correct, use some spacers to hold it in place while the adhesive gains strength. 24 hours later, with the adhesive set, it can now be grouted in the same way as usual. Although for a single tile you don't need much, so it can just be mixed in a small pot. When you're planning your tiling and ordering an extra 10% to cover for cuts and wastage, it's always a good idea to keep a couple spare at the end of your project, stored in the shed or the loft, just to have the ability to replace the odd tile in the future if you need to, like this. So that, I think, is a good job done, and with a bit of drying and polishing, I don't think anyone is ever going to realise that that has been changed. So that is how you change a broken tile. I hope you found this video interesting and useful, and I will see you in the next one.